if I'm completely honest, the teachers, like at this point, teachers are more mercenaries than missionaries. So wherever they get the highest incentives, they will go. Um Now, it's not as structured as like a European football club, that there is a transfer fee, etc. But still, the game is very similar. That they get more amount at the other. But what we have done differently is so that's why the more skin in the game you give. For example, whatever whenever a student is brought to an academy by a teacher, they get 10%. And I think we are one of the few edtech companies who do revenue sharing. This is also like similarly what happens with doctors in the top hospitals. There are some doctors who are the best. Now, if you keep them on fixed, then the doctors are not motivated. If you keep them on fully variable, then the hospital administration won't make that much money. So I think at the end of the day, let's face that fact that money is a strong motivator. The second big motivator is status.
This is episode 19 of First Principles, the fortnightly leadership podcast from the Ken. And I am Rohin Dharmakumar, your host. If you're a regular listener, thank you and welcome back. And if this is your first episode, it's a great episode to begin with. Today we're speaking with Gaurav Munjal, the co-founder and CEO of Unacademy, one of India's most aggressive and highest valued edtech startups, last valued at close to $3.5 billion. Gaurav got into the content game when he was just in class 9. In a few years, he had started getting monthly payments from Google for the ads he ran on his content. In college, he had a blog devoted to actress Priyanka Chopra that fetched him hundreds of thousands of rupees each month. On another Facebook page devoted to fashion that he ran, Chinese brands paid him hundreds of dollars each month to run their ads. So when he finally started Unacademy in 2015, it was in many ways either a culmination or at least logical evolution of his life thus far. Nearly 8 years and $835 million in venture capital later, Unacademy is a company that reflects much of Gaurav's personality. It has no time for niceties. It would rather disrupt than defend itself. It is supremely confident in the face of even existential crises. And it attaches zero value to classical or theoretical notions of education. I mean, who else would say that education is really a tournament that can change lives, and that teachers are coaches, and that the best coaches are like mercenaries, and that they already earn more than second-rung movie stars? Strap in for another great conversation filled with counterintuitive views on education, innovation, organization building, and survival. Let's start. Gaurav, you said Unacademy is not in the education business, it's in the motivation business. You said this in the past. Who is Unacademy trying to motivate? Students? Teachers? Other edtechs? Help us understand this.
So the statement comes from the philosophy that if people wanted best content and best education, that is already available on YouTube. The reason, and Unacademy started as a free platform because the founders of Unacademy were teaching on YouTube. We got distribution. And at some point we are like, we want to build our own YouTube for education, etc. And education, like entertainment, will be very celebrity driven. So when you have Zomato, Swiggy or other platforms, there you have commoditized labor working for an ABI. Whereas when it comes to content platform, including education, if there is a good teacher, the Pareto principle will be applied and everybody would want to study from that teacher. And if you go to that teacher's class, it's not the content, because the content is already available. It's the fact that these teachers, these educators make you want to study. Now, some of these teachers are from Kota, some of these teachers are from Delhi, um, and they inspire the learners. That's why, whether it's Mr. Mrunal in UPSC or uh, um, some educators in JEE NEET, these you'll attend the class and you'll be like, it's almost like a theatrical experience. So I think I had said that statement in a way that, and that's why our life classes product worked. I mean, we launched the product in Jan end 2019, and it was life classes subscription to the best teachers. And this year, the revenues of that product will be upwards of 1,000 crores. So I think, and honestly, every single piece of content that is being taught in our classes is already available in some form or the other. But learners still come to learn from the best teachers because these teachers motivate the learners to crack these examinations, or these teachers would just tell them something that would inspire them intrinsically, which they would not get at other
So
places.
I'd like to go deeper into that. So what you're saying, and as I understand it, is an inversion of the way my generation, and I am an older generation, viewed education, which was essentially that what was in the books mattered, right? The syllabus mattered, the theory mattered, and then occasionally you would have the one teacher or the two teacher who were exceptional, and you recognize that, but you never expected that everyone would be like that, right? And what you're saying now, it's kind of inverted. You're saying the theory, from what you just said, you said what we are teaching, everyone else has access to the same. It's who's teaching it. So now the exceptions, the few teachers we all remember from our school days, are now no longer exceptions. They are being elevated, and what you're trying to do is that what if 80% of the people that you learn from are exceptional? Is that a way to kind of look at it?
Yeah, I think specifically for test prep, J and NEET, in every city, even when I was growing up, let's say 15 years ago, there was these famous teachers that this person is very good in physics, etc. But yeah, now that has become a norm. Now these exceptional teachers, especially online education, these teachers are the teachers who everybody wants to learn from. And we'll have, let's say, 10 or 20 teachers where the entire country would be learning from, etc. And I think that shift has happened. See, when I was in first year, I took this course. I went to a college where the academics were not so good. So I would end up sitting in the library and learn online. So there was this program called CS 106A by Stanford. This is 2008, 2009. This was the first year where they put classes of that teacher online. And if you see how Mr. Mehran Sahami taught, his it was almost like a theater. Like in one of the classes, he would come dressed as somebody else. He would have a story, etc. So I think even in the best universities, etc., the way some of these teachers teach, they get known for that. So, but now because of internet, that will happen a lot, and that has been happening a lot. I mean, if you see one of our competitors, Physics Wallah, he built an entire company on top of that. So yeah, I think it will continue to happen a lot.
It's interesting. I'd like to come back to this later, but for now, before the thought escapes my mind, what you're also saying reflects the fact that teachers were not that expected to be that great in the past. But even if you look at their incentive structure, they had no incentive to be that
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But now, thanks to the rise of the internet and business models like yours, where you're able to incentivize those teachers to perform better, there is also the shift that's taking place, which is where earlier teachers were good because they were just great teachers and they were doing it purely because they enjoyed teaching. Now there is an economic incentive as well, which I
Yeah.
think is fair.
Yeah. No, I think it's awesome because, see, at the end of the day, I'm not in the education business. I'm in the motivation business, and I'm in the tournament business. At the end of the day, test prep is tournament. We are prepping kids for a tournament because that tournament will give them, it will change their lives. Now, these people, these teachers are sort of coaches of the tournament. And if they are helping people change their life, I mean, they deserve to make a lot of money. I mean, the top teachers at Unacademy, I mean, there are at least 30 to 40 teachers who make more than a crore per year. So I think, yeah, I think and now they can grow their distribution, they can grow their following, they can have a YouTube channel, they can have a Telegram channel, they can teach on Graphy, and they can amass that following.
I understand these teachers are motivating students to want to learn and to perform better.
It's not just that; it's also how they teach. Yeah,
Fair.
it's a particular concept being taught in a very unique way that increases retention.
My question is slightly tangential, which is it's become incredibly competitive. As all teachers have had to raise their games, there are more and more celeb teachers and superstars. I would ask the same question. How do you motivate your teachers? The teachers are motivating the students. How do you motivate your teachers? Is that something that you think about as well?
See, if I'm completely honest,
I would want you to be
the
nothing but.
the teachers, like at this point, teachers are more mercenaries than missionaries. So wherever they get the highest incentives, they will go. Uh, Now, it's not as structured as like a European football club that there is a transfer fee, etc. But still, the game is very similar. That they get more amount at the other. But what we have done differently is so that's why the more skin in the game you give. For example, whatever whenever a student is brought to an academy by a teacher, they get 10%. And I think we are one of the few edtech companies who do revenue sharing. This is also like similarly what happens with doctors in the top hospitals. There are some doctors who are the best. Now, if you keep them on fixed, then the doctors are not motivated. If you keep them on fully variable, then the hospital administration won't make that much money. So I think at the end of the day, let's face that fact that money is a strong motivator. The second big motivator is status. So if there is an edtech where you hired a top teacher, but that I don't want to name them, but some of our competitors discourage teachers from building a YouTube channel or Telegram channel because there,
Because they don't want their brands to become strong enough. Is that the reason?
yeah, I mean, those companies are started by educators themselves. So they would want their brand to be the biggest brand. Whereas we have always promoted teachers in our brand campaigns, etc. And we never went to any of our ads ourselves. So that is one, whether my brand or fame as a teacher, whether my brand or fame will rise if I come with you, or whether you'll try to kill that and you'll just try to use it for your benefit. Second is, do I have an incentive structure where if you make a lot of revenue, I make a lot of revenue? So I think these two are there. Uh, and that's fine. I think they are not wrong in it. It's just how it is.
I also see this as a sort of inevitable phase that we have to go through. Like, if you look at the past, you're looking at times where teachers largely didn't make enough money. And now you're going through a phase where that model has changed, and teachers who are great can make a lot of money. And that obviously, like you said, will lead to a lot of people chasing money in the short term. But I want to understand, if you fast forward, let's say 5 years or 10 years, once this settles down into a more stable pattern, what will it look like?
No, I think directionally, what will happen is that this will not settle down. In fact, more and more educators would want more variable pay. And some of these educators would be earning 10, 20 crores per year. So, in fact, now becoming a top educator is a career option like becoming a top YouTuber or a top podcaster or going to Bollywood. Like, if you see the mid tier of Bollywood, like, let's forget about the top three and the Shahid Kapoors of the world, etc. But if you look at the mid tier, I think the top educators of an India would be earning much more than the mid tier of Bollywood. One, it is not predictable. Second, it has an expiry date because at some point, as time passes, you will not be getting enough movies. But with education, with time, the earnings for an educator just increase. So, in fact, I would love a model where, uh, you know, only 30 or 40% of educators' payment is fixed, rest is variable. And then they have these incentives to deliver the greatest content and attract more and more students. This will happen whether we like it or not. This is already happening.
While all of this is going on, in comes AI.
Yeah.
And you seem to be fairly gung ho about how AI. You recently launched a product as well, built around AI, where you can say something and get an answer back through it. How do you not view AI as disruptive to the human element, the subjective element? Because if an AI can essentially ingest all the content out there, if it can observe which teachers are performing better, how they're performing better, why they're performing better, could not an AI driven competitor that may or may not exist today try to build a better system that teaches? Are you not worried about that?
No, first of all, whatever will be built by us. Second, the commodity part of education will 100% be disrupted. In fact, I was
What
just
is that? If I may ask you to, what is the commodity side of education?
let's say doubt solving, where you don't care whether it's a celebrity or not. You have a doubt, you want a solution.
So it's transactional. It's like,
Yeah.
here is a problem. What is the solution?
I mean, at this point, I mean, if I can, like, we are testing out bunch of questions, and I asked somebody give me a super tough question. I gave it to the AI bot that we have built, and the person said this is like really good. It's like 7 on 10 answer, and that is with 20 days of effort. So the commodity part of the business will be 100% disrupted. I mean, let's say what Doubtnut did. They have, let's say, millions of DAUs, but each video so Doubtnut is basically you click a picture of the question, you post. They have these answers in the database made by human educators, and you get a response, because if that question matches the ones they already have, you will get the video. If they don't have, then a human being will make that video. Now I'm assuming that one video would cost them anywhere between 500 to 1,000 rupees to make. The video that our AI, like the AI system that we have built, is working on, which will launch in like 10 days. Now, I'm not saying that the video quality would be at par with the human educators today, but it will already be 70% there. I mean, I'll show you that stuff after this as well. The cost of making that video for me is 1 rupees. That will be disrupted. I think, for example, and Doubtnut needs to launch JEE, NEET, etc. as categories. And I'm assuming they'll copy us, and they'll also, because
What's a competitive advantage once everyone has access to AI?
it's just that whether you are a sales driven company, whether you are a content driven company, or whether you are a tech driven company. And so far in education, we have not seen a tech driven company so far. Byju is a sales driven company. Physics Wallah is a content fame driven company. Alan is again a very content pedagogy driven company. I think we'd like to still view Unacademy as a tech driven company. So the adoption of tech would be super fast. For example, if we are the first ones to launch the best features. For example, let's take the example of a subscription product. Now, it was more a business model pivot and UI UX. Even till today, we don't have a close number two, and it's been 4 years. Even till today. So I think that mindset shift is needed. The fortunate part is that none of my competitors think product. They think education, they think fame, they think content, but they don't think product. And we like to take pride in the fact that we are product first, we are tech first. And I have met all of them. Even one on one, I say, you guys are not thinking product, but I don't think that's the DNA. So I think, for example, I was reading this tweet the other day that AI benefits those who already know coding at an individual level, because AI is a feature on top if you are a programmer or if you are a techie. But if you were not that in the first place, now the difference and the deficit will be even higher. So I think I'm not worried about that part at all. Because there is no Zomato Swiggy type situation here where both the products are good, both are trying to outcompete each other, etc. I mean, when it comes to product and tech,
If I may stop you and ask you, how do you come to that conclusion? What makes you say there aren't competing products? What metrics are you looking at to arrive at this decision? Is it
See,
Number of people who visit, is it your revenue? Is it number of people who visit your
any single
products
metric,
versus?
any single metric for an online product, we are ahead. Any single metric, whether that's revenue, whether that's
But that's not what you said. You said like there are no, it's not like Swiggy, Zomato's. One can say maybe Zomato is larger than Swiggy in these cities or Swiggy is larger. You're saying no one's in the same range as you,
in the online space. Yes, offline you have Alan and Akash, who are much ahead of us, but in the online space there is nobody in the same range.
which is a great segue for me to ask you. Could you tell us in a line or two what is an academy?
See, Unacademy is now because we have done so many pivots, etc. That now I have a clear destiny. There are certain tournaments or goals in life that people have to appear. Um, Unacademy just helps you achieve those. So whether it's through online, whether it's through offline, and these tournaments slash goals slash test prep examinations are usually life changing. So it's a utility product, and we build the best products and features to help an individual irrespective of their for example, our online products are affordable, much more cheaper than the offline products. They help bridge that gap, that if you could not afford to pay 1.5 lakh rupees to go to a coaching center, you can buy a 20 to 30,000 product of ours online, and that will help you crack the examinations.
How do you make money? Is it just a single bucket where customers pay you money, or if it were a pie chart, if you were to look at your revenue as a pie chart, what are the segments in it?
So one is the subscription product for live classes. This is like subscription access to 30-40 teachers, etc. Second is we sell individual courses. Now they may be live or recorded, both under the Unacademy or Prep Ladder brand. Third is our offline centers. And fourth is we have a tool called Graphy, where we help other people launch their courses and we take a 10% cut.
One of the most popular analogies to describe Unacademy would be what?
I mean, honestly, whenever we are internally discussing things now, the closest we come to is like a production house, like let's say a Yash Raj Productions, but for education. Because we also have that same problem that, let's say we seeded an educator and the educator became too big. We get this problem that now the educator is too big to handle, or he or she is getting offers from all other places. So we have to constantly create these celebrity educators, keep launching them across categories. We have to ensure that our pedagogy and teaching is the best. I think that's the closest parallel to our online business. Our offline business has been, at least till now, we have not disrupted anything. At least till now, it's been 1 year, not even 1 year, 10 months. So for now, we are just launching offline and giving everyone access to our online product as well. But we'll understand that market more and eventually we'll come up with a better product.
How old is Unacademy?
We started in 2015. But the YouTube channel was launched when I was in third year of college with the name Unacademy. And then Roman, when he cracked IAS, UPSC exam, then he started creating videos. And then the channel kind of saw an uptick.
How many employees are you today?
Around 2,500.
What's your revenue?
Revenue, last year we did 1,000 crores in collections. This is the money that we get in the bank, but the reporting that we'll do is accrued revenue. So the accrued would be somewhere around, let's say, 900. And this year we are projected to do 1,350. So we'll grow around 35% this year. Most of our businesses will be profitable this year.
What was your last or most recent valuation?
I think 3.44 billion post.
How much venture capital have you raised till date?
835 million.
Why were you able to arrive at this market either ahead of others? What brought you to this market?
I think I already had that YouTube channel running. I saw Roman's videos getting a lot of views. I knew education is a big market.
Roman is your co-founder.
Yes. And then I think that it's just,
Why did you have a YouTube channel?
What?
Why did you have a YouTube channel?
So I think I went into content when I was in ninth standard. So I got my first Google AdSense check when I was 14 or 15 years old. So I started coding at the age of 12. I used to run these blogs at 14 or 15. So then in college or post college, Roman and I were top writers on Quora, top 20 in the world. So there was this intersection that there were two things I ended up loving during college. One is coding, second is content. So for example, I remember I used to run this blog called Priyanka Chopra blog. It used to be the number one search result if you search her name, and I used to make a lakh a month during my college years, which was pretty awesome. Like I mean, I come from a middle class family, and when I stumbled upon this kind of money, it was pretty addictive. Okay, I can generate a lot of content and make money. So and every year it used to happen that I used to start a new project. So whether it's committees in school or college, I would mostly be the president of all the committees. I would be organizing events, and I would have blogs or YouTube channels, or I had a Facebook page called Fashion Nama, which got 1 million likes when I was in second year of college. And Chinese brands used to pay me $600-700 a month to advertise on that page. So I was in a way an influencer before it was popular.
I can't but help observe the fact that you and Roman are in some senses the version ones of the talent that you are trying to build and retain, because in many ways you gave your
Yeah.
content to Quora and Google and all of those, and then at some point you said, hey, why are we doing this? Why don't we build our own product? And you did it.
Yeah.
And you have the same thing playing out itself again with your creators as well. At some point many of them will wonder, we are so big, why are we doing this for Unacademy? We should do our own thing.
Agreed.
How do you hold them back? Do you try to hold them back?
No, we can't. I mean, at this point, if it makes economic sense for us, if we can pay them more money, but if Shah Rukh was launched with Yash Raj, but eventually he built Red Chilies. He still does a movie with Yash Raj because of the relationship. In fact, we try and have good relationship with the educators. We might have burnt a few bridges because of the layoffs that we did, because there was some bad blood, because the online revenues didn't grow as much as they should have after COVID. So we had to get our costs under control. But except that part, we have been pretty good to educators. So if they we would have the relationship with them that if they tried doing something, they started selling their course on Class Plus or Graphy, they would want to come back to us. If they want to come back to us, we'll take their calls and it would be a smooth transition.
How old are you?
I will be 33 this September. I'm 32 right now.
Are you married?
Yes.
Do you have kids?
No.
What were you as a child?
I mean, I remember just being very rebellious. Every parent-teachers meeting, my parents would come home and they would reprimand me because something I did in the class. I threw some chalk. I don't know. I was very rebellious as a kid, but I was also very creative. So I would be involved. I would want to be a part of every single extracurricular activity. I remember I made a short film when I was in 10th standard. I used to love coding a lot.
What was your family history? What did your folks do?
So my father is a doctor. He was the part of this hospital, Saket Hospital, which is one of the largest hospitals in Jaipur. And my mother used to run. She is not a doctor, but she ran her diagnostic center, etc. So we grew up in Jaipur. I was born in Bikaner. Then we grew up in Jaipur, typical middle class family.
Did that have anything to do with your worldview also? Because you've referred to the fact that doctors are also, in some senses, the same cycle has played out in India with doctors, where particular doctors, once they become very good and they start earning a certain amount of money, they realize that they call the shots, and either they open their own clinics or they go to a different. And that same dynamic is playing out with teachers. It's essentially
No,
talent.
I had zero interest in that. So I remember I was 11 or 12 years old. I had read some Dainik Bhaskar or Patrika or something that Bill Gates became a billionaire, something like that. I remember going to my father at the age of 11 or 12 and telling him that, like, he started Windows, I want to start something called Doors. So I remember that. See, one of the reasons that I think Unacademy will succeed and whatever we do will succeed. And I'm not coming from a uh, like a narcissistic point of view or from a overconfident point of view. This is all I wanted to do as a kid. I'm living the best life. It's like I found my passion early on, and this, and I used to love stories, so I would read Harry Potter a lot. I would read fiction a lot. These days it's more non-fiction, but whether one of my favorite books is Catcher in the Rye, or I would read these books, and somehow for me, coding and creating products, and I used to write stories. For me, that creation was super important.
From that, what's your advice to young folks on choosing a career and becoming good at it over time?
See, my advice is that uh, my usually advice is that um, I don't know. I need to think on this because uh, I mean, usually now my advice would be that one of the reasons that I'm an entrepreneur is because I was a content creator first. See, when it's either creating a product or content, you realize that you get this infinite scale that you will not get if you're getting paid by the hour. So my advice usually becomes that uh, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, creation will be huge. Now, whether you are creating a game on Roblox, there are kids in US creating games on Roblox. Whether you are creating a YouTube channel, whether you are live streaming on Twitch, you are a chess player, but you live stream on Twitch and you make hundreds of thousands of dollars. So my advice usually is that these leverage points that you have, use them, and understand that this whole education system. And I know I'm trying to get them to these colleges, but I think entering into these colleges makes them a good employee. It prepares them to be a good employee. It does not make them a creator. So I am, I mean, I was obsessed with computer science, but I knew I hated physics, chemistry, maths. So I didn't get into IIT. But in a way, I'm also lucky because I think if I would have gotten into an IIT, I think I would have been more satisfied with my life because I went to Xavier's Jaipur, where all the toppers come from, and all my friends went into IIT Bombay. I had this itch that I'm a failure. So I used to do things more differently, and I used to hard work even more because I used to be in this constant race that they have already taken a step ahead.
Interesting. So, if I were to kind of place you in some kind of a bucket, it's like the intersection of two circles, one of which is doing something which you enjoyed, and the other one is a sense that you did not get what you want and you failed. So, you're doing something which you enjoy. At the same time, you also have this chip on your shoulder that I want to kind of
Yeah,
prove to the others, and that both of them fuel each other.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it
What
used to be that was an initial motivator. Now I really give a fuck about. I mean, the extrinsic part. Now I think intrinsically, I see founders. how they change after getting their secondary. Like they'll make $1 million and they'll be like, they'll take weekends off and they'll travel and they'll chill. And I'm not talking about the best founders. I'm talking about some founders who do that. And I don't get it. For me, the more I achieve, or even when I made some money, I just wanted to work even harder next day, because this was the byproduct. What still motivates me is that I remember that uh, uh, everybody has something that they want to show to the world. I remember that I was a very socially awkward kid. I was weird in a way. I used to talk, but I used to be weird in that sense that my classmates would not like me. They would think that he is different. But then I remember when I was 12 years old, I made this KBC program in Q Basic. Q Basic was the language, and we showed it. The teacher liked it so much that they called everyone in the class and they showed that program to them. And I think in a way I'm still that kid who wants his products uh, to be who wants his products to be appreciated by the world.
What are you paranoid about?
I am paranoid about becoming irrelevant. So um, whether it's a new tech or it's new ways of doing things, I don't want the next 22, 23-year-old kid to disrupt my products by thinking better, by executing
You
better.
use the word disrupt. Disruption is a very commonly used word in many of your interviews, articles, etc., and all that. How do you view disruption? You just said that you don't want to be disrupted by another younger you. Uh, is disruption in many ways, it's like the threat of becoming irrelevant. Is that something which is very important to you and to Unacademy?
Yeah, I mean, think of what happened with Nokia, what iPhone did to Nokia, but much smaller scale, much smaller scale. Or what we did, like offline centers took 30 years to reach 2,500 crores of revenue, or 2,000 crores of revenue. We were able to do that in 3-4 years through the online products. But now, everybody, whether that's a physics wala or whether that's Akash or Alan, etc., now they are copying us. They build this YouTube distribution and they sell courses, etc. So now what we initially built is becoming a commodity. So we must continue to innovate. We must come up with better products. Because see, you have a 2, 3, 4 year cycle. You start with something. At best, you get a 2, 3 year runway, but eventually they will catch. Now, whether it's a delivery app, whether it's a P2P payment, whether it's a game, you have to then continue building these modes, etc.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. This must be very taxing on an organization. What I mean is that, and on you, on the people who work not just in Unacademy, but in many of the internet and tech driven sectors, because what you're saying is true. Every 4 years, you can never say that you've arrived. You can never say that your business model is stable. You can never say that you can take your market share. And therefore, you're always paranoid. You're always looking in your rearview mirror. You're always building the next. What does this do to the people who are within these organizations, and what can we do about that? Because I've seen this.
See, I mean, tech
It's stressful.
Oh, it's super stressful.
As a founder, I'm sure you internalize that stress. Like you said, this is your company, you're not done yet, you have a lot of things to prove. But what about employees? Because this stress, does it not catch up with employees who are like, I thought we just won and now there is this new race again?
No, so we have been pretty transparent that every month is a match. I think sports team are
So this tournament thing runs internally, externally, everywhere within Unacademy.
Yeah, I mean, we post public results to 2,000 people that this leader did a good job, this leader did a bad job, like public results. I mean, if you make everything transparent, there is no concept of public shaming. I mean, by default, if any team in IPL plays, they know where they stand. They know which player did how much. So I think the best tech companies are like sports teams. I mean, see, if you look at the best in any field, whether it's a Virat Kohli, Sachin Tendulkar, Shah Rukh Khan, I mean, it was never enough for them, right? They wanted their next creation or their next match to be better than what they had done before. So I think the
So a lot of
truest,
them are superstars in their own field and extremely intrinsically motivated.
yes.
But when you look across a large organization of 2,000, 2,500 people, I'm sure no matter how hard a great a job you do of filtering, retaining, etc., it's not possible. Not everyone
I
is
mean,
so extremely intrinsically motivated.
see, let's say some roles are, let's say, commodity roles where, let's say, you have to do X task in Y time. There you don't need intrinsic motivation. There you need rules. These, if you come, you'll get this much salary. These are your rules. You have 3 strikes. If you don't deliver for 3 consecutive months, please go. But then at least, let's say there is a core team of, let's say, associate director and above or director and above, where I'll have, let's say, 80 people or 90 people. These people have to be handpicked because whether it's Unacademy, whether it's Zomato, whether it's Ola, whether it's, uh, working in some of the top US tech companies, I think it's pretty taxing. So unless you are intrinsically, and then you get whether you get ESOPs or you get promotions, etc. I think intrinsically you have to be motivated a lot because at least the top 30, 40, 50 people at an academy are still in office every Saturday for 8 to 10 hours. I still do Zoom calls on Sundays, and this is like 8th year of an academy. Does it get easier? I don't think so. If you are fairly ambitious, and it need not be because
So what is it that you're chasing? All of you are chasing. If it doesn't get easier after 8 years and only gets tougher, and perhaps if you look ahead, the next 8 years might be even tougher, then it's worth just asking the question that what is it that all of you are chasing?
I mean it's the game. I mean the game of building great products, great businesses.
So playing the game
Yeah.
is what motivates us, not
Playing and
necessarily
winning,
continuing to win and
continuing
get
to
better at
win,
it.
continuing to win.
What happens when you don't win then? I mean when I say
It's pretty
don't
taxing.
win, yeah, because you have multiple products. Not all products will win.
I got 3 panic attacks in the last 7 months, and I have never gotten a panic attack. Why? Because suddenly my online business was degrowing. I didn't know where the next stage of growth will come from, and I was burning too much money. I mean, at one point, I was burning 150 crores a month. Now, this month will be profitable. First profitable month in the history of an academy. We'll generate a profit, little profit, but we'll be profitable, cash flow positive. But the last 7, 8 months were tough. I mean, I have never smoked in my life, but I got addicted to that vape. I mean, somebody introduced me, and like every Saturday, I was calling my driver that, can you get me that orange flavor or whatever? Like, I mean, and then I had to let go of it because it's super addictive. But I remember that last 6 to 12 months were very different, and nobody talks about it because people think that you are not supposed to share this vulnerable side of yours, etc. I openly talk about it within the organization also because I think then they realize that I'm not putting a brave face. I'm pretty fucked too. I mean, I didn't know where the growth is coming from, but then we did 20, 30 experiments. I remember this talk from Andy Grove in 1992 that you'll go through these strategic inflection points, and there are 2 things you can do. One, you can do M&A. And however tempting it may be, because you're on the front page
Mergers
of it,
and acquisitions.
but it is not good. And we saw one of our competitors do that, and he's in a lot of trouble right now, like huge trouble. We didn't do that. We got into chaos. We got into whiteboard mode. We used to come to office every day. We said everybody has to come on time. We started doing 10, 20 experiments. Now our growth is back on track. Now at 1,000 crore base, we'll grow 35%.
So the choice, what you're referring to, was essentially a buy versus build. When you find yourself in a hole, you can either buy your way out of it or build your way out of it.
But buying your way out of it in more often than not doesn't work. Because at some point you have to see, at some point those businesses will also go through a strategic inflection point. And I believe now that
Could I ask you to define? I mean, what is a strategic inflection point?
Strategic inflection point is that you had growth, your business was growing, you had a product, but suddenly either some change in technology or market or something else has changed the behavior, and now your business is not growing.
And in your case, what was that?
Opening up of offline. So we have
So easing of the pandemic restrictions and people returning to offline classes was the big strategic inflection point for you.
Yeah.
The funding environment was not, it does it not compute at the same level? Is it a lower risk? Or
I mean, we raised 440 million 5 months before this recession started. I like to call it recession. I think we are in the middle of a recession. Those who don't believe it are living in a bubble. I closed my round in August 2021. Jan, Feb is when things got fucked. The stocks crashed in US, tech stocks. Liquidity became an issue. So I think,
there is a saying that
So we have 300 million in the bank. We are in top 5 or 6 most capitalized startups in the country right now, and we massively reduced our burn. I mean, I had my board meeting on 14th, and I have never seen my board members so happy. I mean, even during the growth phase, they were ecstatic because I think we realized that things are going to be pretty bad much sooner. We did our first round of layoffs in Feb of 2022 when nobody was doing layoffs. And we realized that if we don't fix our shit, we might become like one of those big companies that get stuck. And
there is this saying: if you got a panic sooner.
Yeah.
And I'm just not trying to link it back to your panic attacks because you were physically experiencing panic attacks. Have they disappeared?
Yeah. Now they have disappeared. I think I have not had one. I think October is when I had the last one. But I'm also happy that, I have Roman and Himesh and I complete 10 years this year. Roman and I have been childhood friends, like since 11th standard. So I think I've had a great support system also. And some of our investors, like I have a very deep relationship with some of the investors, Shailendra, etc. And these were super supportive people. I mean, they were tough that you got to do this, but they were also super supportive. Like Shantanu of GA, Samir of Nexus, Shailendra, Sumer of SoftBank. And I think one thing that helped us, which I would tell other founders to do, was we always gave the bad news to everyone. Like if things were not good, we just sent everyone a message on WhatsApp that this is what's happening. We never avoided confrontation. And one thing I see in founders who are failing is that they are just avoiding confrontation. They will not talk to their investors because they are fucked. But what they don't realize is that instead of doing the shoddy shit that a lot of founders these days are doing, just speak to your investors. Just tell them that, your business is fucked. They will help you. I mean, they are in this business that they took a risky bet. So they know there will be ups and downs. But don't hide stuff.
Unacademy is a very strategy-driven company, and I don't just say this as an observer. You yourself have said that leadership typically spends about 25% of time on strategy. Now, strategy over the years, it used to be a cool term once upon a while. Then it got devalued to the extent that if someone said that I want to work in strategy, you would look at that person and say it's because you don't know how to work. And yet you take pride in the fact that you're a strategy heavy company and then you spend like a quarter of your time on strategy. Where does that come from and why is that important?
So I think if somebody is just a strategist, then that's not cool, because I think the best strategy will be always made by people who are also execution people, who understand the nuances of education. I mean, there are times I speak to my educators directly, and then that gives me an idea, etc. But again, let me correct you on that. 25% of the time of maybe 5 or 6 people. We are a very top-down culture. We are not a bottoms-up culture. We don't
What does that mean?
I mean, we don't necessarily ask people what we should do. It's usually the 4 or 5 people on the top who decide this is what we have to do, and everyone has to execute that. We don't waste time in aligning people. If you are not aligned to us,
Why?
I think that's a waste of time until you figure out a business first. Um, I think it's the job of the CEO and the CXOs on the top to figure out strategy. And since we are very close to the business, etc., from a we are not very close to the business from a ground root point of view, because salespeople would be, but we we are the ones spending time on the dashboards. We are the ones thinking about the competitive landscape, etc. So we take inputs, asynchronous inputs. That if you have inputs, send us. We'll review that. If you have ideas, if you're a director and if you have ideas, send us those inputs. But we don't have like an ideation session or something like that. It's usually the top three or four or five people who decide what's to be done.
What do you gain by operating like this? And what do you lose by operating like this, possibly?
I mean, if those top five people are bad at strategy, then essentially the company can fail. What we gain is immense speed. I mean, whoever, when new leaders join our organization, even from some of the best companies like Flipkart or Paytm or Zomato, like whatever, like when they join us from the best company, they come thinking that, oh, I come from a unicorn company which can move very fast. More often than not, 9 out of 10 times, they are just surprised by the speed of execution. We decide things and we set deadlines and we achieve them. And we are almost like like it's almost a sin to not achieve your goals or numbers at an academy, unless you know that something is wrong. Then have a discussion. Like if there is a leader who has been given a target, if something is wrong, okay, then say that you're not going to achieve it. Let's figure out other ways, etc. um, but what we gain is immense speed. What we lose is that people complain that uh, Gaurav doesn't listen to other people, he doesn't listen to new ideas. uh, we are all just at the end of the day executing what he wants. uh, this is what I lose. So some of the best people, some of them, there are some people who like this structure, but some people will say that we don't have strategic autonomy. We have operational autonomy. He will not get involved in how we are doing those things, but what to do is usually decided at the top.
You seem to be an intensely goal-driven organization. What kind of a system do you adopt? Like, for instance, like an OKR methodology or anything else to align the entire organization around execution, goal setting, metrics, etc.
OKRs we tried. I think they're too complicated. At the start of the month, at the start of the year, we'll set our yearly goals. So we just have a concept of iconic goals. Like, what do we want to be? Like, one of our iconic goals is that 50 to $100 million of revenue should come from pure tech businesses. Offline centers and test prep is not a pure tech business. It's content plus tech. But Graphy is a pure tech business. Now that's an iconic goal. It will take 3-4 years to achieve that. Or the fact that we have to get to $1 billion in revenue with, let's say, 20 to $50 million of free cash flow. It's an iconic goal. So iconic goal is usually the direction that you want to know you're going. Yearly goals are targets for the year. How much will you burn? How much will you grow? And then they have to be broken down every month. And it's see, at the end of the day, the only goal setting system works as reviews. You meet the team, you see whether they are on track to hit their numbers or not. Um, it is not a cool thing to do. These reviews are tough. They are draining for me also. Um but that's how you maintain that rigor. You know, like it's very that Frank Slutman approach where you just have to bring in the rigor.
It's very clear what you operate, the space that you operate in, the company that you run is fundamentally about talent and creative talent.
Yeah.
What are some of the hacks or tricks that you have to spot and find talented people?
See, over the years, um, I think there is a lot of great talent that exists. I think at the end of the day, my interviews are just about whether we are on the same wavelength or bandwidth. For example, number one, uh, there will be a lot of compromises on work-life balance. Now, if people who work closely with me fundamentally disagree on this, then don't usually end up hiring them. There will be a lot of late nights. There will be a lot of Saturdays. Um, I will call you at 1 a.m. to discuss something. Um, so I think that's second. In general, people who are confrontational do really well in life, and
Life or Unacademy?
both. Both. In general, what I've realized is that even some of the best CEOs. I know of some CEOs in India who are not taking tough decisions in a market like these because they're non-confrontational. They don't want to admit that they're wrong or to tell somebody that they are wrong, etc. So I think
Is that a cultural thing?
at an academy,
No, I mean, is it an Asian cultural thing, Indian culture thing? Because we are generally less confrontational, to use your word, and
yeah, I mean, people in my network tell me
we don't
I'm
like saying no. We
Yeah.
don't like, telling people the truth to their face.
maybe, maybe because I mean, people close to me tell me that I'm the most confrontational person that they know of. So, but I think at an academy you will
What do
find.
you think? Have you met someone who's more confrontational than you?
I think Dipinder of Zomato is more confrontational than me. Bhavesh of Ola is more confrontational than me. Um, I think I think Shailendra is confrontational, though Shailendra is polite confrontational. He will like I can sometimes come across as extremely rude while confronting, uh, but some people are also good at communicating the same message politely. Uh, I struggle in that. I have to really prepare myself. Oh, I'll use these words, etc. But I think what I've seen generally is I was reading about Mr. Beast, who's the biggest YouTuber in US. He's pretty confrontational with his team. So I think um, whe- somebody need like people need to be smart, otherwise they won't be hired at an academy. They need to be coachable, because if they think that they have made it in life, they will probably leave the org in 10 days, because we usually in 10 days they realize that whatever they learned they have to unlearn that in terms of speed, execution, etc. Third, they have to be thick skinned. There are brutal reviews where we tell them that this was probably the shittiest performance or shittiest month or shittiest feature or whatever. Like, we are very upfront about that. And then in general, they have to be pretty confrontational, that, hey, I didn't like this, or you are doing this wrong, we should change the strategy, etc. Because what happens is when you have such a strong headed leadership or such a strong headed CEO, I don't want yes people around me. So I think people who do really well are the ones who pick fights with me. And I think now I have a 60-70% hit rate. I can tell after a half an hour catch up with someone whether they are going to um uh, do well with me or not. And they need inherently people who are rebellious do well. So yeah.
You said that typically in the first 10 days of working at an academy, people will come to know whether it's for them or not. Now, I'm sure you arrived at this through trial and error. There would have been the early years where you hired people and then they realized and you realized that they were not a fit, and then they left within maybe 10 days or 15 days or a month or two. And then over a period of time, you must have figured out ways to try and assess that before bringing them into the system. Because at the end of the day, you also don't want to spend a lot of time and effort hiring someone only for them to realize within the first 1 month. What are some of those?
I mean, 50% is also, I mean, the Ken or Morning Context or Morning, this Money Control did an article. So what happens is when the narrative gets set that it's very tough to work at an academy, you are filtering out 50% people by default. See, because I never, I mean, there was obviously some exaggeration to these stories, but there is also some truth that it's a tough work culture. I am a very demanding CEO. And so there are some people who are inherently attracted to that culture. So that is step number one. Usually people have heard some instance of some story of, I was this brutal in a meeting, or, I did this, but still they came for the interview. So
You did
the,
some of that in this podcast as well, which is you're again signaling to listeners that this is a tough place. I am a demanding CEO. So
yeah,
don't join me if you're not signing up for this.
yeah, and I think I've been pretty. See, it's demanding, but it's very fulfilling. Some of my current and ex employees have said that they have done their best work at an academy, because we push people a lot for quality. We push people a lot for speed. There is burnout, but then we usually tell people to take few weeks off and then come back. But what was your question? I forgot the question.
No, I think you kind of answered it because we were just talking about when you find people, what questions, like what can you do in the interview or in the pre-joining phase that reduces the likelihood of bringing someone on board who may not turn out to be a fit, because it's
So,
bad for both
so
company and
one
employee.
hack I do is to determine whether somebody uh, is coachable or not is making them do something which is completely outside of their comfort zone. For example, I was interviewing the sales leader and I said, um, I want you to learn Python in 2 days, basic Python, and I want you to create this. Then you'll come to me and I'll ask you to create a program in front of me. I mean, he did it.
Gaurav, do you think you're replaceable at Unacademy?
I think there are some businesses definitely that don't need me, because we have strong systems and strong leaders there. So I think partially it's true, but there are some businesses, for example, the online test prep business is going through a strategic inflection point. I think I'm needed there. So my operating style is also that I don't have any recurring meetings on my calendar. Zero. I don't do recurring reviews. I wake up in the morning. I have this 1 hour thinking time where I take an iPad and pencil. No WhatsApp, no Slack, nothing. I just write down the priorities, and usually I know the 10 areas I need to focus on. So if at a point I see that, oh, our pedagogy in centers is not good, so there is where I'll spend the week, etc. So I think I'm fairly replaceable in some parts, and that's a good thing because that helps me then focus on new products, and the better systems I build for my existing products, I can focus on new products because I mean, our obsession towards continuously building new products and disrupting what we have already built. I mean, that's the core DNA of the company.
What are some of the first principles that you find yourself turning to when faced with situations that you haven't dealt with?
See, in a business, Shailendra always talks about these fundamental truths of a business. Great businesses have high gross margins. Companies that burn a lot rarely become profitable. So, Shailendra at some point taught me many of these principles, whether it's compounding, whether it's gross margins, whether it's like business model of a software business versus a content business or an educator led business. I think at the end of the day, most of the times when we fuck up, it's rarely an execution issue. More often than not, it's a business model issue. When White Hat,
What's the difference,
I, I,
like to an observer from the outside?
I'll tell you. I'll give you a very interesting, relevant example. So Karan Bajaj is selling White Hat. He has an offer from Byju's. Now, somebody from Nexus calls me, says if you would like to look at this deal, we can connect you. I get on a call with Karan Bajaj, amazing top line revenue, etc. But I think I didn't have enough money then to buy his company, but I really wanted to buy it. In retrospect, I got saved because I realized I didn't have enough sense of business model then. I now do. that businesses that are heavy service oriented. See, our online test prep businesses, my one celebrity teacher can teach 10,000 students live in a class. And there is no expectation from the learner for one on one. Because these people know कि this is the best teacher of quota. Offline center में तो उसको वो मिलता ही नहीं teacher. Because offline centers say you need to be in the A1 batch to get access to that teacher. So the person sitting in Indore is fortunate that the best quota teacher is teaching me. So fundamentally, when I add more subscribers, my gross margins become better because my cost of goods sold or my teacher salaries are not increasing. But whereas a white hat junior, or in our case, we did acquire this company called Mastery and SwiftLearn, the problem with both was service businesses. I mean, you have to scale, then you have to get teachers, you have to train them. It's one-on-one service. Product has no role to play. You have no moat. You can take your classes on Zoom. It won't matter. It's CAC, performance marketing, etc. So essentially, what we have realized is that fundamental truths of businesses is what the first principles we come back to. Does your business scale like a media business or a gaming business or a software business does? Does your business have great gross margins? Because
But yet you also said that it's only this month that you're breaking even. So it took you a while to internalize this and to execute it within Unacademy itself. Was it because you raised too much capital and you didn't have to worry about
no,
this?
I that's different. Online test prep business has amazing unit economics. The problem was I didn't know that TAM would be a problem.
It's a total addressable market.
Yeah, I think that's what will
You're
happen.
saying it's not big enough.
Yes, that's the problem. Um, and I love edtech, but that's why I'm trying to diversify from edtech because, I mean, it's big.
Sorry, but why is that? Like from the outside to a layperson, it looks like India is soon to be the world's most populous country. We've got large number of young people. They're all growing up. Education is on every parent's budget, and yet you're saying total addressable market is a problem. Why?
No. See, what will happen is that if the companies are truly ambitious, I mean, our TAM is not as much as HDFC Bank, right? Or our TAM is, Amul did a revenue of 55,000 crores, whereas the largest offline coaching center does a revenue of 3,000 crores.
So fair. So you're saying that the number of people who can drink milk or have a bank account versus those who want. Okay.
Plus, it's also about retention. We are a one-time product, whereas these products, you build a brand, you got into a bank, and you're a customer for life. You are.
But you're an edtech, and there are edtechs that strive to play a much broader role from.
I think that's wishful thinking. I think edtech essentially is a one-time product unless you are building a school, but schools are not supposed to be businesses in India. They are supposed to be
trust, just
Yeah.
like hospitals are not supposed to be businesses in India.
Yeah. So I think.
But even if they were, they're predictable annuity businesses, not multiples businesses.
Yeah, and then there are some regulations on how much fees you can increase, etc. But I think that's wishful thinking that edtech will ever have recurring revenue. People don't learn unless they have an objective. I used to think that we'll make the school product where you can come and Netflix of education, and I think it was an interview with the Ken only. I said we'll be the Netflix of education. I used to think people would want to learn new things. People don't give a shit. They don't want to learn anything. They would rather watch TikTok or Instagram Reels. They only want to learn if there is an objective. Will I get a better job? So you have eruditis. Will I get a degree? So you have eruditis. Will I get a better job? You have scalar. Can I crack this exam? You have test prep. So I think it's very utility driven that I have this goal. I want to learn a language, Duolingo. And I don't want to learn a language because I woke up one day and I am either going to a country for studying or I'm going for a different job. That's why I want to learn. So I think that fundamental truth sometimes bogs me down that edtech is great, unit economics are great, but we will have to diversify because it's just not big enough for our ambitions. I think at some point.
Are there areas where you've already started that work, or is this lying largely still in the future, your diversification?
I mean, I'm like, for example, Cohesive has nothing to do with edtech. Cohesive is competing more with Notion, where we want to, or Canva, where we want to be this tool for creators to create stuff using AI. Next level is competing with Naukri. I mean, Naukri time is huge, 60% profit margins, etc. So I think, uh, yeah, we have started diversifying. But we are at an early stage. Last year was, anyway, the focus was on core and cutting burn. I think in 2, 3 years, people will start looking at us as a much broader technology company rather than an edtech company. Education will still be our cash generating engine, uh, but we would want to do many, many things that are apart from education as well.
Is there a company globally that you'd start to resemble then? Or would it be a mix of companies that you'd start to resemble?
I think Tencent is a good example that they have. See, I'm not saying we'll have 10 categories, but let's say Tencent was communication, gaming. So we'll have these 2 or 3 macro categories. Um, yeah.
What are Unacademy's core principles?
See, I think
I've seen you refer to some of them in your interviews, etc. Is there like a list? Is it something that, like other things, some of them which are stronger than the others, that you find yourself referring to more often?
I mean, one is definitely sports team, not a family. We uh, performances.
Also, Netflix
Yeah,
has something like this,
yeah,
or
yeah.
used to
We
have.
we we copied this from Netflix. Um, the other principle is that we have to be tech and product first. We have to think of moats. We can't just say that let's hire more people to do this problem. The third is that we have to continue to disrupt our own selves. And fourth is that everybody in every single team has to be super ambitious. But I think one thing that we don't have it as a principle that's written. But uh, I think one of the things that I've learned in the last 1 year is that we have to be extremely good at strategic inflection points, because this is where companies are made or companies go down. I mean, I'm telling you that in 3 or 4 years from now, out of the top three at techs, the other two won't be relevant. Like, I can give this on record, because they are just not good at handling strategic inflection points. Either they are not aggressive enough, or the founders are not even on the ground solving issues. Um, I mean, I think that's what, see, because 2021, every single edtech company got money. It's 2022, and this year is when the real test is.
What phrases are you known for inside Unacademy? Do you have stock phrases that people know you for?
I mean, either I end up loving something a lot and I'm like, oh, this is best and this is awesome, or I just say this is shit. That's one. And second is, I'm fairly particular about how we communicate internally. So if people have a comma error in there, we have this principle called,
You're a grammar Nazi.
yeah. If people have this, so one of our principles is it starts with the comma. There is this book called The Score Takes Care of Itself, about this coach, Bill Walsh. And he said that winning is about the small things. Like when he became the coach of the team, he got the receptionist to answer the phone well, etc. So I think how we communicate, if you speak to
How
anybody,
much people pay attention to detail reflects in how they treat other aspects
yeah,
of their work.
I mean,
as
and
well.
at one point, I thought people thought that I've gone crazy, that because they shared a screenshot and they were highlighting someone. So I responded back, that the circle or the oval that you draw is not proper. Can you resend that?
Could it be just that? Are you an OCD?
Yeah, I think I am. Yeah.
All right. What is something that has made you proud in the last few weeks or maybe a month?
I was actually doing this exercise with myself in the morning. See, I take pride in two things. I don't take pride in raising the most money. I don't take pride in doing the best brand campaigns. Um, and we have raised good amount of capital. We have done some really good brand campaigns. But at the end of the day, we take pride in either great product, great strategy, or great execution. Did we make something that was significantly better than what others did? Second, did we do something strategically that nobody else did and we won? Third, did we execute it in such a disciplined manner that was better than anyone? So and I was just making a list of things that we have done in the last couple of years. For example, when we launched in 2015, we had this Unacademy Educator app where it was like a TikTok style app, but for education. You could create videos on the phone. So uh, our competitors were sending pen tablets to educators and laptops. We just said, download this app, create videos. 1 million videos got created through that, and we got our initial distribution on our app. Second was the subscription product. We were the first ones to launch. Third, we were the only probably edtech test prep company which launched 40 examinations. Until now, either somebody was known for two or three examinations, JE NEET, or Time was known for CAT, or JK Shah was known for CA. We launched 40 categories. And, my other two competitors had their core business drop by 40% last year. We had a flat year, 0%, but we didn't see degrowth because of this multi.
So diversification and creation of optionality
Yeah.
is a very important thing for you and for Unacademy.
Yes. Then, we were the first ones online to hire the most expensive quota teachers and bring them online. Like earlier, people were not playing this game.
I get the idea. You've got a lot of this thing. My question was really about something instinctive that you felt proud about in the last this thing. A lot of these, I grant you, these are things that you have rightfully, feeling proud about. But
yeah, but it's just that I wrote them in the morning. That's why I
office
got,
or
I
work
got,
from home?
I got 6 days in office. I'm kidding. I mean, 6 days for people who are working closely with me, 5 days for everyone else.
What does a productive day at office look like that makes you feel satisfied at the end of the day?
It has to be a good mixture of design reviews, product reviews, execution reviews, and some thinking sessions with solo work where either I'm reading a book or I'm doing some brainstorming with my own self. Because I think the best strategy sessions are the ones where people come prepared uh, in advance. Like they have come up with 10 ideas and now we are just discussing those ideas. We are not thinking on the spot.
So does a lot of your strategy get formulated in the review meetings or are they separate?
A lot of the strategy gets formulated when leaders do these solo thinking sessions, and when we sit over a cup of coffee or something, then we brainstorm these ideas, and that's where we have the magical spark, magic moment.
What part of your job do you wish you didn't have to do? Really, there's nothing
No,
that you don't wish you didn't have to do?
I'm just thinking.
All right, let's come back to it. What have you changed your mind about managing people? If at all, if there's anything that you've changed your mind on.
I mean, I used to trust people a lot less. Now I trust them a lot more, because I was a micromanager on day one. I would want to get into everything. Now I'm fairly good at delegating stuff and only micromanaging things that are bothering me. I think I'm more. I trust people much more now than I used to. Uh, I think it also comes from the fact that I can handle my paranoia much better now. Earlier, I used to get very stressed.
How did you manage to do that? Like, do you meditate? Is it just practice? Is it just that you've gone through so much that now you've just figured out how to handle it? What is it? What changed?
I think that 1 hour of solo thinking is what changed everything. So either it's
When did
me.
you start doing that? And
I think
what triggered it?
2.5 years ago. So I was in London, and my phone's battery died, and I was walking in Hyde Park, and nobody was with me, and I ended up walking for 2 hours, and I took a paper and a pen from somebody, etc. I think I got some of the best ideas because I was not constantly on WhatsApp and Slack, and I can't meditate. I am too impatient to meditate, but I can do this walk and I can write down these ideas, etc. And I also realized that a lot of anger that I had towards certain teams who had not delivered, etc. I would just write down that this is what they have to fix. So when I started giving, when I started telling teams, instead of saying that, why the hell have you not delivered your numbers, rather than saying, why don't you do this? I think my this whole feedback loop became much better. Uh, I think some people who are working with me now would not have been able to work with me in 2017 because I was just too much of a micromanager. But today, I think we have a great leadership. Very rarely people churn from our senior leadership, whether it's Tina, our HR head, who's been with us for 3-4 years, Subbu, Vivek. So the point is that this has changed a lot because inherently I was that impatient micromanager, and I think that those thinking sessions was sort of a form of meditation.
You're still impatient. You're just not a micromanager now. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm also impatient, but I'm not impatient in expressing it now. I would document it.
That's that 1 hour window in the morning
Yes.
that you're referring to.
Yeah.
Tell us, what does it look like? What?
So I have realized that the impatient essentially stems from the fact that you don't have answers. So let's say it's 10 a.m. I woke up. I'm worried about X thing. If I don't think about it and I go to office, usually I would call the team and I would be like, "What's happening? Why have you not delivered this?" etc. So I would pass on the pressure, but it would not be constructive. Now what I do is I would think about that topic for 1.5 hours.
Almost you're doing a root cause analysis.
I'll take a very long shower. I'll go for a long walk, or I'll sit with an iPad pencil and
You mentioned shower. I feel compelled to tell you there was this very interesting research that I came across today which said, why do you get the most interesting ideas in the shower? And the reason is because when you're in the shower, the water that hits your head, it's almost like you're in a sensory deprivation zone. It shuts off a lot of your senses, and therefore a lot of your brain is able to suddenly like switch on and focus on things which are in the background, which is essentially why a lot of people get great ideas in the shower.
Yeah, and I think if you're taking a walk in the nature also.
Again, sensory deprivation. You don't have WhatsApp in front of you. You don't have all the other distractions. So
Yeah, so I would just take 2 or 3 cups of black coffee and would go for this walk.
this is
And
now, like, is this the 1 hour in the mornings that
Yeah.
you refer to now?
yeah. I mean, on some days I just want to sit and write on my iPad. On some days I want to take a walk. On some days I want to take a long shower. Yeah. So I think
And is this something that you calendar in? Or is
No,
it
it's-
just
it's-
part of your schedule now?
it's a ritual. Like I do this for 60 to 90 minutes every day. And usually sometimes it's like the airplane mode. What usually also happens is when it gets over, probably 70 or 80 people get messages because I turn off the airplane mode and that happens. But I think then then my feedback is much more channelized. I think this has been the biggest shift in how I operate. And the other biggest thing I operate is that I try to be good at focusing on the Pareto principle stuff. That if I just get these three things right, that would have 80% impact rather than focusing on the small stuff. Like I knew, at any point at any month, I'll have 4 or 5 big priorities: XYZ product launch, this strategy, or this much cost or whatever, and we would just get that right. Earlier, I used to make a fuss about everything. Now I pick 3 or 4 things that have the highest impact, and we call this needle moving things. So, sometimes when I meet a leader and they are not delivering their numbers, my first question to them is, can I see your calendar? When I see their calendar, they are just wasting their time doing random recurring meetings that have no impact. I'm saying you would rather just wake up. There is this principle called Ivy Lee productivity. Ivy Lee productivity says wake up and write the 6-7 things that will have the most impact and the toughest, and then sort them from the highest impact to lowest impact, and do it in that order. Don't do anything else. So I think I'm a fan of that approach because
That approach necessitates you having to say no to a lot of things, correct? Because by virtue of picking something which is important and tough, you're also leaving out a. What does that do when people come to you and say, "Hey, I want this. Can you do this? Can you do this?" Do you find it easy to say no?
I mean that's one privilege of being the CEO, that yeah, I mean we can say no a lot. So
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself as a CEO and as a spouse?
I don't know.
I normally ask parent, but let's go with spouse in your case.
I think maybe 4 or 5 on 10 as a CEO. I think I have a lot to learn. I think I'm nowhere close to, and maybe uh, 2 or 3 on 10 because I'm not able to give time to Rima.
That says something, right? That both of the most important roles, your,
No,
your
but my wife would rate me higher, and my investors would,
employees
and my
and
investors and employees would rate me higher. I just think, and sometimes you get this debate in your head. I just think that my expectation of myself is much more than what the shareholders or the investors expect of me. Like they would be happy if I deliver half of what I'm planning to, but I wouldn't be happy. So I think that's the problem.
if you were locked in a room for 24 hours without any internet, 24 hours, mind you, not 60 minutes or 90 minutes, what would you do?
I mean, I love thinking. I can just I can just sit and think for hours and hours, and I just need a paper and a pencil, or an iPad and an Apple Pencil. And
What's your favorite cuisine or dish? Something that you'll eat 6 or 10 times when you go out.
Indian. I'm a.
What Indian? Indian is not even a cuisine. It's just so many cuisines within there. Or a dish.
I mean, I'm a Punjabi. I love Indian food. It's rajma chawal or chicken and garlic naan, and I mean the usual stuff. But I also occasionally would like Thai curry and rice, and the
Which morning of the week do you look forward to the most?
I think Monday, because Mondays are usually. See, I have an issue that I'm a workaholic. So Sundays I get very bored. I'm like, okay, you sat with friends, you had some shisha, you chilled, you had a drink, you watched some Netflix. But what I really, really, really love doing is work. So I just want to go back to the office on Monday, because this is what happens with me on a vacation also. I can't do a vacation for more than 3 days. Like my honeymoon was 3 days, because third day I was like, I need to go back to my office. So the hack that I figured out is that me and my wife and some of our friends would take these weekend getaways, because for a weekend I can chill.
So it's
Third,
almost like they're training you to gradually get to longer vacations. You get
yeah,
from a
no, but I'm
weekend to
no,
three
no, but
days and
but
then to 5 days.
I'm a super control freak on vacations also. Like unless there is a planned itinerary and everything is on the calendar.
Oh, you're like the worst person to vacation with them.
No, but they love it, because like I would have taken care of the fact that if we are leaving the hotel, then there will be sandwiches and parathas in the car for everyone. Like they initially thought it's a bad thing, but then they would take, like I managed to the point that if somebody likes sparkling water more than still water, then in their car they'll have that. So like I would optimize to that level. And
I did ask you earlier, do you have OCD tendencies? Now I think it's very clear that you do like this aspect of yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your life?
now I'm probably 7.5, 8. 6 months ago I was probably a 2 or 3. Now I think the business is in a better shape. I gained a lot of weight in the last couple of years, so I have started taking care of the health lately. I'm eating better. I'm playing tennis 3 times a week. It's a long journey. I have to lose weight, but I get tests done every quarter, so metrics are normal. I am able to spend time with Rima and my pet dog. I have a Shih Tzu called Albus. So and I have a good circle of friends, so I think I'm fairly
Is there
uh,
something that you've geeked out over recently? A product, a service, a book, anything?
uh, everything in AI. I mean, it's so fascinating. Like literally 24 hours ago, I saw a video, uh, and it looked like a very real video, but
Text
it
generated from
no,
text.
there was this human being, but at the end of the day, that was an AI person. Text generated. I mean, I got a lot of flack for it on Twitter also, that this is basic, but see, that's where it will start. It will be the basic stuff, but then you'll
Yeah,
evolve.
but the improvement is exponential, not linear.
So I think everything that's happening in AI. Second, I'm very fascinated by robotics. I think when I was growing up, my parents didn't have a mobile phone. I think my father got a phone when I was in 10th standard. Um, and then suddenly I had a phone when I was in 11th, and I used to talk to my friends on SMS. Then college SMS was like a thing, and then like by the time college was ending, a few of my rich friends had BlackBerry, and then everybody in 3 years was on WhatsApp. So this drastic shift from mobile phone to internet to social media, I think I think the next generation would see this in robotics. I think every single person or a family or household would have some form of a robot. So I think that's uh, and I'm not even talking about self-driving cars. Like I was in SF, and you know about this company Cruise. Cruise is like they have all
GMs,
yes,
right?
they
Yeah.
have already rolled out driverless cars. It's super fascinating that whether it's content creation or driverless cars or robotics, I think next 10 years people don't realize that they are going to be so different from the last 10. Because see, last 10 May 2007 is when the iPhone was launched. So let's say by the time 2011 2012 it kind of picked up, everybody had a smartphone. So last 10 years was the smartphone. Next 10, I think we are talking about fundamental shifts.
Thank you so much, Gaurav.
Thanks a lot for inviting me and asking me interesting questions.
Thanks for your candor.
Yeah.
Thanks. If you're hearing this, it means you hung on till the end. Thank you. I need your feedback and ideas to make First Principles even better. Better guests, better questions, better subscriber features. Please click on the First Principles subscriber survey link in the show notes and send me your thoughts. If that's too much, then you can just type in the-ken.com/FP survey. I'd hugely appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening.